Well, the reason that I think, and I've said it several times, this is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season of his career is for this reason right here. Aaron Rodgers making it about himself. And I believe him that he didn't say it totally 100% definitively, but my point is he is a better quarterback, I believe, still than Russell Wilson was last year, than Justin Fields was last year. But it's not about that with me and with Aaron Rodgers. And I think this makes it about Rodgers. The story of next season for the Steelers is all going to be about, this is it. This is Aaron Rodgers' last season. That is going to override everything, unless they're great for, and really have a chance to win the AFC. But most likely, it's just going to be about Aaron Rodgers, and it'll be somewhat of a farewell tour, which I honestly think he deserves. He's one of the best ever, four-time MVP. But it's going to override everything and make it about Rodgers. I thought their best chance to do something this year is if Rodgers just goes in there, plays quarterback, lets Tomlin do his thing, the defense do their thing, and he just does his thing. And now you're going to have this whole big, huge Aaron Rodgers story overriding everything.
Because pretty sure isn't 100% sure. It leaves the door open.
Yeah.
What if he gets hurt? What if he has an amazing year and they make it to the AFC Championship game and he wants to run it back? I get why Aaron Rodgers wants to do this. The Jets thing was a disaster. Some of it bad luck with injury, some of it bad play, some of it just the Jets, right? I mean, it's not a mistake that he said I played 18 years for a cornerstone franchise and then I want to finish with a cornerstone franchise, skipping over that Jets part. So this is a football genius. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. He's a four-time MVP. I get it why Aaron wants it. He gets to play the Bears again. That's going to be an awesome moment. He gets to open with the Jets. For him, that will be a cool moment. He gets to play the Packers on Sunday Night Football. For him, that will be right, sure. Assuming health. Yeah, sure. Week 8, assuming health, he will play against the Packers. I get why he wants to do it. For the Steelers, man, it's just a one-year deal with the devil. Best case scenario is what?
The best case scenario is 11 wins.
11?
I don't think that's going to happen. But I think, to be fair, the best case scenario, I think, is 11 wins. We're talking about absolute best,
you win
and
a
they
playoff
make the
game.
Conference championship game.
Right,
that is a top 1% outcome.
Right, so Tomlin's playoff drought gets snapped at 9 years. You win double-digit games, and Rodgers retires. And then what?
Exactly.
So I get it from Aaron's perspective. I really do. The Pittsburgh side's the part that's confusing here.
Go ahead, Nick.
So, listen, I first just want to level set here because we do this a lot with Aaron. He is not a credible narrator. And I think it is important to, remind the audience, or if people weren't watching the interview, right before or right after, I can't remember, he made this announcement. He also said that he relishes the day he no longer is in the spotlight because he doesn't want to be in the spotlight, and he's only in the spotlight because he plays football, which is a remarkable thing for this player in particular to have said when, in the last few years, he has been like, you know what would be fun? Being the host of Jeopardy. But then, you know what also I would like to consider? Being the vice president of the United States. You know how every NFL player has to do weekly media obligations? What if I also did 36 of the longest podcasts you've ever heard in your life? And by the way, what if I hired a film crew to make a documentary about me because I don't want the spotlight?
That I released during the season.
And so I do understand. He is now maybe because he had very public relationships previously with famous women. And now he seems to be in a very private relationship. So maybe that's his significant other doesn't want it, or he learned his lesson from that. But it is. So the relationship stuff, I can be like, oh, you changed on it. But in the last 365 days, he has begged for the spotlight, not for just like, I've got to play football on TV. And so the reason I mention that is, if you will say, I relish not being in the spotlight, right after you said this is going to be my last year, I might take them both with a grain of salt. But I think your point is the more interesting one, which is what is this? I'm going to show you two graphics back to back. Which graphic are the Steelers really focused on changing? It is the playoff drought ones, which is how long they have gone without a playoff win. You can just roll years without a playoff win, that they are on there. You know what I mean? The 8th longest. Then consecutive playoff losses graphic. That is, they are tied for the longest with Miami. Don't go to the next ones yet, Dustin. It seems to me, Brew, like the Steelers' franchise goal is to remove themselves from those two graphics. When I think their goal should be trying to change what these two graphics look like. Most Super Bowls won by any franchise in league history. Here is what that graphic currently looks like. They're tied with the Patriots.
Right.
The goal should be, how do we get it to where we're not tied? Most Super Bowls been to by any team in franchise history. They are tied with those teams, for second place. How do we get alone in second place? By the way, shout out the Chiefs making both graphics. What a run by Mahomes.
It's a great run. Big if true.
And so, you understand what I mean? Those are not the exact the decisions you make to break a playoff losing streak versus the decisions you make to try to win another Super Bowl are not always the same decisions.
Right. Where I disagree with both of you is that I understand why the Steelers are doing it. I don't care if they trot out Mason Rudolph. They're not going to be one of the 5 worst teams in the league. I mean, Tomlin might get a Mason Rudolph QB team to 500 or
you got a
better, a game
QB,
over 500.
Yeah, Duck Hodges,
8 or 9 wins, right?
Sure.
So they know that we're not tanking. Obviously, that's not in our DNA. That's not in Tomlin's DNA. And I firmly believe they believe that with Aaron Rodgers in there, and I'm sure they know he's not the MVP Aaron Rodgers, but just Aaron Rodgers being better than Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, we have a shot. I'm sure they feel like, look, the Chiefs are phenomenal. They can't make the Super Bowl every year. Somebody's going to trip them up. We play well in the AFC North. We can beat Baltimore. We can beat Cincinnati. Yeah, so I firmly believe they think, look, we're not the favorites. We got to catch a little lightning in the bottle. Stuff has to break our way. But with Rodgers, we really think we can win the AFC. I feel like they are trying to go for the Super Bowl, and certainly they went out and got the best quarterback available for them.
They got the best quarterback available on a 1-year deal, right? I mean, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, you can make some arguments there in terms of long-term, but for a 1-year deal, a mercenary deal, yes. And I agree with you. Like Aaron Rodgers said, he's like, the goal is to play 20 great games. He said that during the interview today. So that's the first thing, because the first time he spoke as a member of the Steelers, he said, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I don't want to talk about Super Bowls or playoff droughts. I just want to take it one mini camp practice at a time. So this was the first time he at least acknowledged, the goal here is 20 great games out of him. I got my doubts. I will just say this. He's one of the most talented players that has ever played the position. He influenced, his style of play influenced Mahomes.
Yes.
It influenced Caleb Williams. Even as a Bears guy, I used to love watching him play out of respect. I am just glad that this is going to be worth our time. This is going to
What do you mean?
The Jet stuff wasn't worth our time. The vice presidential headlines and the podcast appearances when he was hurt or playing on a bad team or on a losing team, this is going to be compelling football theater. Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, playing Burrow, playing Lamar, playing the Bears, playing the Steelers, playing the Lions. Playing the Packers, rather. That's going to be interesting.
And I would say this. Last year with Fields, they were one-dimensional. With Russ, to a large degree, they were predictable and one-dimensional. Their best offense with Russ was just the moon ball. You know what I mean? They didn't move the ball consistently. Rodgers does, and I'm saying they're going to have a losing season. But I'm just saying from a Steelers standpoint, they can look at him and say, oh, we'll be able to do this, we'll be able to do that. Our defense will be strong. We can have a good season.
Before we move on, Dust, I don't know if we have the Steelers schedule that we can throw it on the screen. I think there it is. I think you guys are being too optimistic.
He has them having a losing record.
Saying I'm saying from their
so then maybe I think
they believe, right? The Steelers thing is the standard is the standard. Yeah. They have never had a losing record. That means if they're 4-3 heading into that Packers game, it's a huge deal. That game's a huge deal.
So I understand that game will feel like a massive event. The point that I am making is, first of all, I do not know that I think next year Aaron Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, because I do not know that I feel that last year he was better than those two players. Last year, Aaron, when he got hot, when the Jets were eliminated.
A lot of garbage time stats.
And there is the ephemeral part of quarterbacking, which is taking bullets for your teammates, leadership, all of that stuff that I just think he is wildly lacking at.
I agree.
And has gotten actually worse at as time has gone on, because it is so hard for great players to recognize when they're not great anymore. So it's because Mike Williams wasn't on the red line.
Sure.
Right. And so for all, do I find it on the board that the Steelers are 1-3 going into their bye? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't think 3-1 isn't on the board?
I can't say
on the board.
I can't say it's not on the board. It would not be my pick, and I think that the Steelers are lying to themselves if they think that 12 months from now they are going to say, "Man, glad we did that." You know what I mean? Like that
I do agree.
That was, and so I understand why Aaron wants a final chapter, and by the way, he's earned it. And you know what I mean? He's not taking anybody hostage. They waited for him. They wanted him. That's fine. I just think I think 6-11 is so much more likely than 11-6. And 11-6 isn't actually even worth that much if it's a wild card berth and getting cracked in round 1 by Josh Allen.
Do you agree that if there's a farewell tour, I kind of feel like that takes away, that lessens their chances of having a great year?
I feel like there's not really farewell tours in the NFL the way there is the NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I'm not
NBA
saying it's a celebration, before every game, but just I think it'll be, the media and other players exchanging jerseys, maybe things like that.
That's going to happen anyway. The guy is exhausting. He's like, why are you asking me about my last game against the Packers? What are you talking about, man?
Here's where I do think it could actually be damaging. If they're better than I think and better than you think, but not great, and the final 3 weeks of the season, it's like to fight to get into the playoffs, and that is walking in lockstep with, well, if they win, they can make the playoffs, but if they lose, it's the last game of this guy's career. That to me is, but I don't think they're going to have to deal with that. All right, let's go to basketball and what we saw from Tyrese Halliburton, which was sports heroism. He suffered a torn Achilles, obviously, in Game 7. Suffered a calf strain in Game 5, played Game 6, and then the Achilles pops early in Game 7. He already had the surgery. This is the new thing. The immediate Achilles surgery. Tatum did it. He now did it as well. He wrote a lengthy Twitter post, and here's a piece of it. At 25, I've already learned that God never gives us more than we can handle. I know I'll come out on the other side of this a better man and a better player. And this, to me, is the most noteworthy part of the whole passage. And honestly, right now, torn Achilles and all, I don't regret it. I'd do it again and again after that to fight for this city and my brothers for the chance to do something special. He also went on in a really kind of heartbreaking way to apologize to the city, which was heartbreaking is the word